Hey, check out my nifty new PowerBook G4. Oh, right. We're going to need this incredibly rare G4 upgrade card and this entire other PowerBook. So stay tuned. And if you enjoy these vintage Mac shenanigans, please subscribe and click on that little bell thing so you'll be notified whenever I post a new video. So these two PowerBooks are both Wallstreet G3 models from 1998, and they're actually the second revision of the Wallstreet, known as PDQ, which simplified the lineup pretty damn quickly, allegedly at Steve Jobs' insistence. Both of these PowerBooks have 266 MHz G3 processors on a 66 MHz bus and can take up to 512 megs of RAM. And conveniently, both the processor and the RAM sit on a daughter board, which is super easy to remove and which also led to a lot of upgrade options for these machines. The Wallstreet has two bays, and it can either hold a drive and a battery, or it can hold two batteries, which in 1998 got you up to 5+ hours, which was a crazy amount of runtime at that time. The PDQ PowerBooks have beautiful 14.1-inch active matrix displays, although my nicer condition PowerBook has an extremely yellowed screen. But fortunately, this kind of beat up PowerBook has a beautiful screen with no dead pixels and no scratches or scuffs. So we're going to combine these two machines and come out with one super nice example. But the most important thing about the PDQ PowerBooks, at least to me, is that this machine was the last PowerBook to have the Apple Rainbow logo. And that's why I'm excited to give mine a new lease on life. Because once we have that screen sorted out, we're going to break out the star of this show, a Sonnet G4 500 MHz processor upgrade. So I want to swap out the keyboard definitely, and I also want to swap out the back plastic on the lid here because it's pretty disgusting on this computer and it's a lot nicer on the other machine. And fortunately, both of those things are extremely simple on this computer. The keyboard is the most convenient keyboard I've ever removed. We just have to pop out our drive and our battery. And then inside the openings here, there's actually just little latches that you pull back to release the keyboard. No screws, no nothing. And then these cables are pretty easy to take out as well. Just get a little spudger or screwdriver or something, and there's just some little clippy deals down here that just lift straight up. And then under this heatsink here is where the processor card is. But while we're in here, I think we should do something about this spinning hard drive. And of course, we could go the tried and true route of a compact flash card and a compact flash adapter, but we're putting a really killer processor in here. We're putting a G4 500 MHz. I think a 2 gig CF card is a little underwhelming. So why don't we try to put a 120 gig mSATA SSD in this thing? And they even put a nice little handle here for you to lift this up. And here's the processor card and a RAM slot, and there's also a lower RAM slot, which in this machine is populated. And let's get our hard drive out. And on our hard drive bracket here, it's kind of a little interesting setup that I haven't seen before. It's an IDE hard drive, and it's on this little daughter card edge connector deal here, which slots into the connector on the motherboard there, but wasn't expecting it to be an edge connector. Well, let's get this drive out of here. All right, we just have a couple Torx T8 screws back here. So I have this nice mSATA to IDE adapter and a brand new 120 gigabyte mSATA drive. And interestingly, it looks like the jumper settings are built into this little adapter for the IDE drive, but I don't think we need any jumper settings for this, so it should be fine. All right, there's our PowerBook G3 Wallstreet mSATA SSD. Let's get this installed back in the machine. All right, we might as well just stick everything back together temporarily and see if we can't boot this up and install macOS on that drive. So I've got the keyboard with all of its keys from the other machine. All right, and I've got a 922 installer here, so let's power this thing on. And we're still alive, and we've got the flashing disc. Hey, check it out. We put in the macOS 922 install disk and booted from it, and it immediately found the hard drive. So I guess we'll call this Mac SATA, and macOS extended, and initialize it. It failed. All right, well, it said it failed, but it also mounted. That's weird. Let's try to install. All right, the installer doesn't see it. Well, that's weird. It does not see the mSATA disk, even though it's mounted right here. Unable to read from disk. Alright, so I wound up getting a completely different mSATA drive because I was still having problems, and now everything works fine. So I was able to install 9.2.2, and it works great. So this drive is a 64 gig drive as opposed to 120. You know, for 1998, 64 gig SSD is not too shabby. And I formatted this with two partitions. The Boot partition is 7 gigs, because if we decide to install OS 10 on here, you can only install OS 10 within the first 8 gigs of the drive. Otherwise, you're going to run into lots of uncomfortable problems. And then we have our just stuff partition, which is 52 gigs, 53 gigs. But yeah, works just fine. So now we just have to install the drivers for the Sonnet card, and you have to install the software first, and I think it takes like a snapshot of your ROM, and then when you install the actual card with the upgrade, it puts the ROM from your computer onto the new card. So let's pop this disk in and see what happens. Well, that was pretty easy. So, step 1, click shutdown and install the upgrade card following the instructions in the quick start guide. And 2, power on the computer and wait 30 to 45 seconds. During this time, you will hear a series of tones. That sounds a little scary, but all right, let's throw the upgrade card in here. All right, let's take a look at what's in this cool box here. So I've never seen one of these in the box before, and the box has been opened, but the card inside is still sealed in its original anti-static wrap. So Crescendo WS G3 or G4, processor upgrade card for Macintosh PowerBook G3 series Wallstreet computers. Compatible with just these Wallstreets, and yeah, very nice stock photo of a businesswoman working on a PowerBook G3 Wallstreet. So on the back we have a bunch of marketing copy in 3 different languages, and it just says some specs about the processor. So 1 megabyte level 2 backside cache, supports from 32 to 512 megs of RAM, installs in minutes with Sonnet's simply fast instructions, and 100% compatible with existing hardware and software. And according to this, it supports 8.1 through 10.2.8, but I'm sure we can push this a lot farther than 10.2.8. And inside the box here, we've got our simply fast instructions, which are simply stapled together photocopies. You'd think this would be a little nicer of a manual, but it's got a lot of nice pictures, so I guess that's good. And then the seller was nice enough to include a matched pair of 256 meg SIMs, so we can max this thing out at 512 megs of RAM. And of course, the most important thing, the processor card itself, still sealed in this original packaging. I wonder what this little bracket is for. I should probably read the instructions. Well, yeah, let's take this out of here. And yeah, still sealed. Observe precautions for handling. Will do, processor. Will do. All right, let's do this. Alright, here's our original processor card. And let's crack open our brand new Sonnet. I can't believe I'm doing this. Okay, and this old thermal compound from 15 years ago is a little bit all over the place. So I've got my isopropyl alcohol and trusty coffee filters, and we're just going to replace that with some new Arctic silver. Alright, so here's our PowerPC 7410 G4, all nice and cleaned up. And a quick search on DuckDuckGo informs me that this is the Nitro low power version of the 7400, manufactured at 180 nanometers. So let's get some new thermal compound on here and toss this into the Wallstreet. That might have even been a bit too much. All right, we've got our memory installed, so let's get this guy in here. And a word of caution, never run the machine without this guy installed, because this is part of the heat dissipation. Yeah, I wasn't kidding about tones. All right, I guess power button. Wow, that took an uncomfortably long time to spring to life, but look at that, we're booting into 9.2. Oh man. Is this really now a PowerBook G4 500 megahertz? That's crazy. Don't freeze now. Spoke too soon, perhaps? Alright, well, second try is the charm, I guess. I restarted and, yeah, booted right up. The installation of the processor upgrade card. Uh-oh. Sorry, system error occurred. Control strip extension. What? Well, I guess I spoke too soon. Okay, so I tried to start again and I got a bus error, so now I've restarted with extensions off. And, well, at least we're in. About this computer. Yeah, we've got our 512 megs of RAM. I wonder what's going on with... Oh, it froze. Well, this seems to have become very unstable. Okay, I reseated everything and I took out one of the RAM sticks. So let's see if we have any better luck this time. All right, and now we're not seeing the hard drive. Interesting. All right, so we successfully booted into the 922 install CD, and that sees our drives, and it just froze again. Is it overheating? Okay, so it's still not able to see that hard drive, but I have booted it up now with the G4 into the macOS 9 Lives disk. And Apple System Profiler shows us our PowerPC G4 running at 500 megahertz and our 512 megs of RAM. So processor is working, RAM is working. This is now officially a PowerBook G4 500. And that's pretty incredible. All right, well, I think I've narrowed this down to a thermal issue, as you can see by my extremely professional temporary solution here. And I've repasted this now twice. And the only other thing I can think to add is to get a thermal pad and replace the little sticky thermal pad that was in here already. So I actually have that on order now. But I think I'm going to call this episode here on this somewhat disappointing bombshell. I mean, we technically did it. We have a G4 500 megahertz with 512 megs of RAM in this machine, and it boots. It's just a little bit unstable. So I'm going to continue working on this machine because I want to see how far of a macOS 10 we can install on this thing. That'll be coming in the near future, and also we'll have more of the cursed Macintosh once that's finished being recapped by Steve at Mac84. But until then, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoy this kind of thing, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, and please subscribe down below. See you next time. And I'd like to thank Spike, who is my highest tiered patron, and all of my patrons for helping me make these computer shenanigans possible.